And seated with us in the studio to discuss the lifting of the Forex restriction is Dr. Ken Okoha, President, National Association of Nigerian Traders. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much, and good morning,
A regular
Nigerians.
on the program. And also a regular on the program is joining us from our Lagos studio, Shuaibu Idris, Managing Director, Timeline Consult Limited. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Jimmy, and thanks for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
And also joining this conversation via Zoom from Lagos, another regular on Good Morning Nigeria, Dr. Muda Yusuf is the Chief Executive Officer of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise. He's a former Director General of the LCCI, that's the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Dr. Muda Yusuf, we're glad to have you on the program this morning.
And good morning.
So, the Zoom connection is crisp. Let's begin with you, Dr. Muda Yusuf. We know on several appearances on Good Morning Nigeria, since it's now in the past, you had always been an advocate for the lifting of the restriction on access to Forex via the official window on the 43 items. Those restrictions were placed in 2015. Now the restrictions have been lifted. Good news or bad news?
Thank you very much. For me, it is good news. It is good news because we need to normalize our policy formulation process and our policy space. What has happened under the previous dispensation was that we had a kind of parallel trade policy. Because in the policy environment, whatever affects import and export is essentially a trade policy matter. And trade policy matters is under the purview of the fiscal authorities, not the monetary authorities. It is therefore not the responsibility of the central bank to be compiling a list of items to be imported or not to be imported. So that was a very big issue, and it was creating a conflict. If you look at the 2023 fiscal policy measure, just as an example, some of the items on the list are already under import prohibition, because people are saying as if the door has been flung open, anything can come. It is not exactly so. We have to take this in conjunction with existing fiscal policy. Some of the items currently under import prohibition include refined vegetable oil, spaghetti and noodles, tomato paste and tomato, fruit juice, tomato ketchup, brewery products, bagged cement, paracetamol, and all some of these generic products that you can produce locally, soaps and detergents, carpets and rugs, footwears, and vehicles over 12 years old. All of these things are already under import prohibition. Some of them are also on this list. So these things are creating a lot of confusion. Then for some of those items, we already have tariff measures to protect local industries. Tariff on rice is 60%. Tariff on flour is 70%. Tariff on crude palm oil is 35%. Tariff on sugar and other related products is 70%. On salt is 70%. On fabrics is 45%. On tiles and ceramics is between 40 to 55%. On many of the steel products, it's around 45%. On gas cylinders, it is 60%. I'm saying all of these things so that people don't feel that there are no existing measures to protect local industries. There are. If we need to fine-tune that within the context of our fiscal policy, we can do that. It is not appropriate for us to have these fiscal policy instruments on one hand, and have the CBN compiling another list on the other hand. It's a contradiction. So when we talk about absence of policy coordination, this is a very good example of it. Normally, the CBN authorities talking of the Ministry of Finance, Trade and to agree kind of under should have started.
Dr. Muda, it looks like there is some interference with your Zoom connection. You are freezing. If that is cleared up, I will come back to you. All right, Muda, can you hear us now?
I can hear you.
Just make your initial comment so that we can get it in the other guests.
So the point I was making is that we need to harmonize policies. What should sit with fiscal policy should sit with fiscal policy. What should be with the monetary authorities, which is essentially price stability, should sit with monetary authorities. If there is a need to harmonize and decide what should not put pressure on our result, that can be agreed within the framework of the policy coordination between the monetary and fiscal policies. When we have parallel policies, it creates a lot of confusion. If you ask the customs, they will tell you the kind of confusion they face at the ports in determining what is allowed, what is not allowed, because by these 43 items. So we need to get it clear. It's not as if the CBN is just throwing open the door for just anything to come in. No, there are fiscal policy measures. If the measures are not enough, we can improve on it.
Okay, Mr. Muda Yusuf, have you finished with your submission? Has gone off. Let's join, before we come to the studio proper, let's bring in Shuaibu Idris, Managing Director, Timeline Consult Limited. He's joining us from Lagos. Shuaibu Idris, let's take a step back and try to explain the reason why this the ban on FedEx for some of these items was done in the first place, and why is it being lifted now? Because Mr. Muda has said that we need to harmonize policies, you know, between monetary policies and fiscal policies and all that. So how would the lifting of the ban on this commodity impact the stability of the Naira?
I think before we come into the realms of whether it will be able to help in stabilizing the exchange rate or not, we should take a bit of a trajectory back into where were we in 2015. Precisely in June 2015, the Central Bank of Nigeria came in with the first set of items, not up to 43 then, and to say that we are not going to allow importers of these items to access foreign exchange from the market. That is the central bank market, and in itself, that is a tacit recognition of a parallel exchange rate market that was allowed to exist, hand in hand with the official exchange rate, which in itself is an unorthodox way of managing a currency. 2015 down to 2020, as at the time when the first set of lists was rolled out, what was the exchange rate of Naira to dollar? As the last time I checked was, the exchange rate was somewhere around 195, 196 Naira to a dollar. Why was there those band? The band was simply put to manage, the liquidity situation and the foreign exchange relationship between the Naira and the foreign currencies. 15 years later, maybe 10 years later, maybe 7 years later, what have we seen? Has the Naira become stronger, or has it even become weaker? And then you then ask yourself, was this policy well thought out? Has it met its own expectations? Again, even before the merger of the two rates, the parallel market and the central bank rate, the central bank exchange rate, naira to dollar, was somewhere around 450 naira to a dollar. So despite the ban, the naira did not appreciate. Now, fast forward where we are today. We have a new crop of guys saddled with the responsibility of managing the Central Bank of Nigeria and indeed the price stability in our economy. Yemi Cardoso, leading the team, came up and said, we shall have a change in mechanism and in direction. Now, most of us who have contributed to giving suggestions as to the possible agenda for the new team came into conclusion that the unorthodox means of managing price stability must give way to rational thinking. Yes, economics is a science of alternatives, but unorthodox means of managing, our financial systems or fiscal or even the monetary policy shouldn't be the case. So, of course, Yemi Cardoso did agree with quite a number of the suggestions and said the central bank will get back to its core mandate of price stability and managing inflation, exchange rates, and managing the banking system. So these steps are, if any, in line with the determination and the agreement or the decision by the central bank team that they want to go back into the reality of what they are expected to be doing. Now, to what extent will this lifting help in managing the liquidity situation or the exchange rate? Certainly, with the merger of the two rates, that is the central bank rate and the parallel market rate, is there a need for banning or restricting access to foreign exchange in the central market, since we only have one market now, the I&E or the NAFEX market or the willing buyer, willing seller market? You will agree with me that there is no longer a need for having any list of banning this item or that item. Of course, 3 years after the introduction of the banning, the central bank came up with a monitoring and evaluation report to say, oh, the banning of this item was helpful. It has created employment opportunities. Local industries have sprung up, this, that. The same central bank in the last 2 weeks came out to say, oh, the unbanning will give us opportunity to create employment and nurture local industries. Now, one asks, which of the central bank reports should we take to? And I think Kemi Cardoso and his team should have done a much better, analysis in coming out with the rationale of why they decided to unban, as opposed to, contradicting itself and using the same system, the same mechanism. I think we need to be a little careful in terms of what to do. Mr. Muda has alluded to the fact that there are quite a number of other measures that are in place, that are supposed to be implemented to protect the local industries. Of course, the fiscal measures are there, they have been there, and they have been implemented. If any, banning those items plus, the fiscal policy is double jeopardy, as they say in law. So much, custom duty rate plus banning them from buying foreign exchange from the central bank was a bit of a double jeopardy that we need not to have had in the first instance. But I think on the whole, to my mind, it should have been a selective and gradual process of unbanning. Lifting the entire 43 items at a go in itself could exacerbate demand in the foreign exchange market, which could further lead to devaluation of the naira. Economic policies are usually supposed to be, measured gradually. You know that you are planting a tree, you need to water it, you need to nurture it with a view that you could get reasonable level of fruit to plug subsequently, but not as you will want to just have what we call policy somersault that in most instances we will come back to regret.
Very much, Shuaibu Idris, there for your initial intervention in this conversation. Back to the studios, Dr. Ken Ukoha. Let's have your input.
Thank you very much, Kinsley. Thanks, Nigerians. Maybe I should start by contextualizing the particular subject matter. And let's get the right frame. First is that the ban has been misplaced. It has been construed as banning of the items. Many Nigerians today, if you ask them, they will tell you that the 43 items, 41 earlier and then added to, making 43, they will tell you that these 43 items are banned. No. That's a misconception. And I think I want to correct this.
What
first.
is the reality?
The reality is that access to Forex for the importation of these 43 items is what is restricted. Not that these particular items were banned. No, no, no. I think we need to correct this.
I said this during the newspaper review last week when the announcement was first made, but continue.
But you know, a lot of, in fact, if you ask 98, 99% of Nigerians, they will tell you that this is, no, that's wrong. That's number one. Number two that I need to talk about here is the process. And certainly, process leads to outcomes. It determines your outcome. What was the process of getting to restrict these 43 items? I recall vividly, we were here, 2015. The CBN came up with this policy, almost unannounced. It shook everybody. And then they said they've restricted Forex for these 41 items. And we looked at all the stakeholders, including the Ministry of Industry, including the Ministry of Finance. I put it on record here. And Kinsley, you recall very vividly that sometime around July, because this thing happened on, the restriction happened specifically on the 23rd of June, 2015. Sometime around July, we were here in this particular room discussing this matter. And all the sectors, Minister of Finance was here and they denied, they never knew about this. Minister of Trade and Industry denied, they never knew about this. Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, they said they never knew about this. Everybody was in total, disorganization. Why did it come about? How did it come about? When did you think about this particular process? And this is the problem that we have been having. That the economy takes one step forward and then 3 steps backwards. Now, it was like an imposition by the Emperor CBN, as it were, entered at the time. Permit me to use that word. No stakeholder consultation whatsoever. And by the way, we have a technical committee on tariff technical committee, which includes the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Trade, I think Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, NASIMA, all of us there in that technical committee. No discussion was held on this matter. And like Muda said, all these items already have high tariff, which is allowed by the WTO and all extant laws as an instrument for regulating them. Now, let me go to number 3. The number 3 here is that the rationale, the reasons, the intendment, the objectives that were set out by the CBN that they presented before us were 3. 1, that they want to conserve foreign reserve. That's number 1 for that policy. Number 2, that they want to restrict or reduce demand for Forex. That's number 2. Number 3, Forex for locally produced, goods that can be locally produced, including raw materials. Number 3 is that they want to generate employment. Kingsley and Juma, let me ask you. Even though there was no analysis, which I asked on that day, was there a kind of analysis that led you to this? Can we have it? They said they have a report. From that 2015 till now, we never had one report. Nobody has shown anybody.
But did you push?
We pushed.
Did you push
I
for
personally
it?
wrote.
Okay.
Now, today, the right thinking would have been, if you want to remove this, you also follow some kind of process, a due process for that matter. 1, stakeholder consultations. 2, the cost and benefit analysis report. That for these 8 years, because from 2015 to 2023 is 8 years. For these good 8 years, this and this and this have been the benefits. Juxtaposed or vis-a-vis the 3 objectives that were set out that led you into this policy. Where's the report? No. And somebody just woke up. Well, let me tell you the implication now. Immediately, this policy announcement was made in 2015. After the whole confusion, some manufacturers went back to a kind of backward integration. Just to align. Just to ensure that, they align with the process and to ensure that they continue production. What are you going to tell those ones now that have invested in that kind of backward integration? And suddenly, this is exactly what is killing our economy. This is why we're not moving forward. If the CBN is ready, the government of Nigeria is ready to bring 70 billion to the National Assembly, I want to be very, very vocal here. Let's scratch the wounds, our own wounds, and know how we heal them. You are ready to put 70 billion and then ready to bring out, funds for vehicles. And then the National Assembly said, no, we prefer Toyota. Meanwhile, there is the innocence of this world producing here. And we said, conserve that particular fund. Hey, these vehicles, Toyota, are you buying them with Naira? Is it not Forex? And that went. What employment have you created? How have you conserved foreign reserves? How have you, been able to reduce demand for Forex? And many of these, I've just given this as an example. Today, where is the role? Where is the role of the parliament in this kind of policy? What have they said? So there are a lot of things that we need to talk about.
Yeah, Dr. Ken Okoha, thank you very much. And the other guest, Dr. Muda Yusuf and Shuaibu Idris. But let's attempt a granular approach to some of these issues. What are some of the items that were earlier placed on restriction with regard to access to Forex from the official window? How do you explain that in an economy like ours, we are having to access Forex to import headpans, wheelbarrows, palm kernel. I repeat, palm kernel and palm oil. How do you explain that? And is it necessarily the case that the 43 items were the sole items required as raw materials for our industries? Dr. Muda Yusuf, let's begin with you again.
These are things that should form the basis of policy making. And just as Dr. Oko has said, they should also form the basis for consultation, both within the key economic ministries and agencies, and also with the stakeholders in the economy. And that is why I agree with the point he made about process. We don't enact policies just as the spirit led. No, we enact policies based on process. And there's what we call also competitive and comparative advantage. There are areas where we have strengths in the economy. There are areas we have challenges. I agree with you. There are things that normally we should not be expending the foreign exchange on. And just as Ken said, it is erroneous to believe that those items were banned in the first place. They were not banned. What was happening is that they were sourcing their foreign exchange from the parallel markets. They were not banned. And in any case, in the last couple of years, how many economic players are accessing foreign exchange from the official window? Close to 80% or more of them were sourcing Forex outside the official window because there was not enough liquidity in the official window. So it's not as if something significant has changed. What is happening is the normalization of the process. But coming back to your point, I think there's a need for us to do a lot more in the area of backward integration, because I remember there was a time those who are in the soap and detergent industry had a very big issue with the palm oil. When it was put on this list, they had to struggle a lot. Their demands could not be met. It was a major challenge. As we speak, some of them have even, closed down some of their production lines because there was no raw materials for them. So it is good to talk about the fact that we have so many of these things, but we have to be very empirical about it. What exactly is the local supply? What's our capacity locally? Unfortunately, we are not making enough progress even in agriculture. Our production and production processes and farming are still largely traditional. There is very little mechanization, and demand is growing. Demand and supply gap is widening by the day. On top of that, you have all this problem of insecurity, which is making it difficult even for many of these manufacturers to have this raw material that we claim we have so much in abundance. So it's a multidimensional thing. We have to do what we need to do in agriculture to scale up productivity. Productivity in agriculture is lagging behind the demand. It's lagging behind the population. The agricultural community is aging. Many of them are still using hoes and cutlasses. That is why you ban some products. You expect local production. Local products are even more expensive now. Look at what is happening to rice, for instance. Look at the cost of local rice. Yes, they are produced locally. Look at how much it's costing. How is that benefiting the citizens? The citizens are becoming, their welfare is becoming worse off. So these things has to be, multidimensionally tackled. While we are saying that we are, restricting imports, which is a good thing, backward integration is a good thing, but we need to invest a lot more to actually transform the agriculture. You cannot be closing borders restricting, and we are not increasing domestic productivity. It doesn't add up. It makes the citizens poorer. Look at how expensive things are. So I agree with you. We need to do a lot more. It's more patriotic, it's more nationalistic. And whatever we need to do, let us get the processes right. Let the key agencies work together and let us sit these things within the confines of the fiscal authorities, of trade policy. Can talk about the tariff review committee. I imagine the CBN is also part of the committee so that we do things properly. That would be my submission.
Thank you so much, Dr. Muda Yusuf. Let's bring in Shuaibu Idris now. Shuaibu Idris, most of the time when these policies are introduced, it's usually said that it's for the common man. And at the end of the day, the common man doesn't even see the benefits. The policy says to increase productivity, create employment. Now, how does this move, the lifting of the FX, fit into the broader economic policies of the Nigerian government? President Tinubu has said that his economic policy is for Nigerians. We need to be patient. Now that the lift on the FX is there, on the broader level, what does it mean for the small businesses we have in this country?
Unfortunately, we are witnessing an era where the economic policy of the Tinubu administration is largely tilted towards the Bretton Woods institution, the World Bank and the IMF, that is the International Monetary Funds. And the prognosis as well as their suggestions from the last time, the first time that I came into the realm of actual discussing economic issues, that is during Babangida's regime, till now, most of the policies that have been dished out to us and we've implemented hook, line, and sinker doesn't appear to, to have given any succor to the common man. President Tinubu has come out to say, I will remove subsidy, I will merge exchange rates, I will free markets, I will do this, I will do that, all in an effort to make the economy to grow. What have we seen in the last 1 week or so? Even the expectations by the Bretton Woods institution is that our GDP is not likely going to grow at 3.3%. It might come down to 2.9%. I mean, is this really, can we really stand up and say these policies are for the common man? Prices have increased. Inflation is on the high, on the rise every now and then. And like some of us have said, why on earth should we allow import of palm oil, palm kernel, toothpick, cement that we are already a net exporter, and so many other items? I think we need to be a little careful. The Central Bank of Nigeria should have taken a holistic look at the policies. Let's not politicize some of the actions of the previous managers of our central bank. Let us have some level of reasoning. Let us allow some senses to prevail on our actions or inactions, not to try to throw the baby with the bathwater just because this is, policy that was implemented by somebody. Central Bank of Nigeria is supposed to be managing the monetary policies. It's not supposed to be a politically motivated institution, because some of these actions appear to be politically motivated without necessarily having a rational thinking. I personally align my thoughts to the need to have orthodox means of managing our fiscal and monetary policies. We are lucky today. We have a governor of central bank and a minister of finance that have worked together, both one as commissioner of finance, one as commissioner of economic planning in Lagos State. So the two hands can shake, as opposed to what we had in the last 5, 7, 8 years, when the Central Bank of Nigeria governor and the finance minister were not even working in tandem. They don't even understand what one another is doing. And these are supposed to be, institutions or parties or personalities that should be working in tandem for the benefits of the economy. The fiscal policy must be able to complement the monetary policies and vice versa. We had on the national television when the finance minister, the former finance minister, came out to disown a policy of a central bank, saying, I didn't even know that they are implementing a currency redesign policy. Those errors we
Shwaibu Idris, I'm sorry to interrupt you, and this is to enable me ask a follow-up question with respect to some of the items that we're talking about that were earlier restricted. Look, a wheelbarrow, for instance, doesn't have an engine. It's flat sheets that you couple together depending on what you need, and then you have a tire and then the handle. That's a wheelbarrow. A headpan doesn't require any rubber. It's just you fabricate flat sheets and then you get a handle. These are the things that we are saying we want to continue to spend Forex on importing. More specifically, with respect to palm oil and palm kernel, I want to also take advantage of your investment sometime in agriculture. There are at least 2 quoted firms in Nigeria that are into the oils business and fats, Presco Oil and Okomu Oil. And we understand, for instance, that palm oil can be produced in at least 24 states in this country. And those states include Kaduna in the north. So why would it be that the central bank restricted access to Forex, and then there are still complaints that end users, for instance, of fats and oils do not have adequate supplies? Was it then going to be the business of the central bank to ramp up palm kernel and palm oil production in the country after restricting the access? I don't know. This is the part of the policy mix that we're talking about. Are we working in tandem, or rather are the agencies working in tandem with one another to be sure that what happens in one part of the ecosystem already gets a balance, and then you ensure that you have a shape for the economy? Once again, with respect to palm kernel and palm oil production, 24 states can produce palm oil, can produce palm kernel. If you are landing at Owerri Airport, you see all of those trees there. They are all palm trees. Who is working on them? And why should we not be complaining that, oh, we don't have enough palm oil or palm kernel in the country?
Honestly, Kingsley, you're spot on. We're generally not patriotic. We're not nationalistic. We don't appear to have a national, what I can say, an elite consensus as to how best to run this nation, how best to run this economy. We've got no business, and I repeat, we've got no business whatsoever in allowing access to foreign exchange to import some of those items, because whether competitive advantage or comparative advantage, Nigeria is indeed strategically located to be able to be self-sufficient in some of these items: palm oil, palm kernel, toothpicks, cement, rice, name them. There are quite a number of those 43 items that honestly we've got no business whatsoever in allowing them to access the foreign exchange. And I think a mistake has been made, and that mistake is in the first instance to even come out and announce that I'm not selling this. We could have done that through a body language, body movement, to not to allow this or that. President Obasanjo did help us when he insisted that the importers of bagged cement will not be given license to import cement unless and until they have a backward integration mechanism. And indeed, before he left government in 2007, Nigeria became a net exporter of cement. Why should we, for example, allow cement to be then, imported using foreign exchange? And like I just said, the whole idea of banning these items from accessing foreign exchange, not from importing, was basically to reduce demand for dollar in the official market, the central bank market where dollars are bought and sold. If indeed we were able to achieve that, but what I said is a review of the process has shown that because there were two markets, one market was selling dollar at cheap rate, and those who were able to access those dollars were going back to the parallel market to sell, and that was the distortion that we witnessed. And if you can ask anybody, the parallel market exchange rate that we had, where were the sources of these dollars? Could that just be diaspora remittances? Will that be enough to have funded that market to that level? So there was a lot of infraction and distortion. However, I still believe that, the Central Bank of Nigeria under Yemi Kadeso took this policy rather hastily, and it should have interrogated the list to make sure that not just all the list will just be allowed to access the market to buy dollars and import some of these items, because like Ken has said, quite a number of Nigerians have invested enormous amount of resources to produce some of these items with a view to taking advantage of the policy. Now, if you just open the bandwagon and allow just anything to be bought and sold via the central market, the central bank market, then we will be doing a great disservice, to quite a number of Nigerians and indeed investors who have staked in so much resources to produce some of these items locally. During the tenure of President Babangida, we had a policy that banned importation of palm oil and vegetable oil. And out of the blues, like you have said, in Imo, in quite a number of areas, Lagos, we had several palm oil processing plants sprang up. Out of the blues, there was a policy somersault. A ban of the import was lifted, licenses were issued. Today, I can tell you, I was part of the team that funded a vegetable oil refinery in Inewi. Today, that industry is closed. Simply because there was this policy somersault. We're likely going to witness another policy somersault arising from the consequences of the action of the central bank. We needed to trade on the part of caution. Like I did say, don't throw the bad water plus the baby just because it was a policy that was implemented by Godwin Emefiele, and then Godwin Emefiele is now on the other side of the divide.
Thank you so much, Shaibu Idris. Let's get the response of Dr. Ken Ukoha to this fundamental question that Kingsley asked. Shaibu Idris, let's have your input in it, and as the president of National Association of Nigerian Traders, how will this benefit local production?
Thank you. Again, I want to raise a few more issues.
Okay.
And I think this would help us in determining where we're heading to, and also answering the question, perhaps. Maybe I should start with what has happened to our currency swap.
Okay.
Let me come entirely from that end. 67.3%, and I want everybody to listen to this. 67.3% of all imports today into Nigeria, as far as consumables are concerned, come from the Asian tigers. Now, 59.1% of these 67.3 come directly from China. And the CBN came up that, look, we're going to have a currency swap with yuan. And that would help conserve foreign reserve. And that would help also reduce the demand for Forex. And that would also help to increase employment by boosting local production. Now, where are we at this, on this particular point? Let me keep this by the side. Second is the issue of borrowing. With the removal of these 43 items, the restrictions thereon, impact in any way at all on our borrowing? Because the more you borrow, the more your currency is also under squeeze. If you know this, do you know that? Number 3. Every importation in this country is done prima facie, I use that word, using what we call Form M. So if you are an importer, before you move, you will fill the Form M, which states exactly what you want to import, certain times in quantities. Now, to what extent has CBN made use of the analysis of the Form M that has been filled by importers for the last 8 years? And if they have been making use of it, can we have a tabulation to show of these items? And that's where I'm heading to now, answering these items. These items, what are the quantities that have been imported into this country? Has it reduced? Checking through that Form M. But you know, I will also tell you that what this has done is that some of our brothers who are on the negative side of history in terms of implementation, enforcement, like the custom officers, when people import, and of course there are two sides of it. One side is that some importers are unscrupulous to the point that if they feel from M that they are going to import, they are going to import A, B, C. Sometimes in the cargo, in that particular consignment, 2 pigs can be there, uncaptured in Form M. But this same 2 pigs is under restriction of Forex. This man has gone, collected money from the CBN and gone. What is the mechanism for checking that, yes, this man or woman did not import toothpicks as against the restriction order by the CBN?
Okay, Mr.
So that's why it is neither here nor there. So I am thinking that what we should start doing right now, Mr. Cardoso, with all due respect, there's need for a meeting of stakeholders. Let's have an analysis of all of this. The manufacturers, how would this impact on them? These traders, how would it impact on them? The Forex system, the fiscal policy, how would it impact? And then the Ministry of Trade and Industry and Investment, let us also see the FDI implications on this. The foreign direct investment implications on this particular. Ooh, let's look at it. Let's sit together. Let's sit together. The CBN can do that. You are not an emperor.
No. You're not an Ireland.
You're not an Ireland.
Mr. Kenwaka, yes,
I'll see how to move this.
Yes, you've raised a lot of pertinent questions that we'll get to talk about after this break. When we return, don't go away. Do stay.
I promise that I shall remain committed and serve faithfully. I also invite all to join this enterprise to make our beloved nation into its better self. We can do it. We must do it. We shall do it.
Bye, Mom.
He's going to play in this weather. Why did you let him go? He might fall ill.
And if he doesn't go out for practice, how will he win more trophies? To protect our family from illness-causing germs during the rainy season, we use Dettol soap every day.
Dettol with Germ Defense gives you protection. Raining season brings a lot of germs, and Dettol soap's Germ Defense protects you from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Dettol soap is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Be Dettol Show.
Something new is about to hit your imagination of TV. A brand new sundial with StarTime's inbuilt technology. New TV innovation with an inbuilt decoder that connects you to both StarTime's antenna and satellite signal. StarTimes Sundial TV, you can enjoy over 300 local and international channels, 1 month StarTimes highest bouquet for free, automatic system update. More benefits, more affordable. StarTimes Sundial TV is available in all StarTimes branches and dealers countrywide. StarTimes Inside, entertainment inbuilt.
The Council of Our Fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Nigeria means unity.
Nigeria means freedom to me.
Nigeria means greatness to me.
To Nigeria is indivisible. There is nothing you can do. We all have to savage it together and learn to love each other. We are indivisible.
As a mother and a leader, I will always preach for peace and unity in this country, because that is the only thing that will give us progress.
Though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand. And it is the woman that does that.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. The Zoom connection to Muda, we understand, is having some low bandwidth issues from his end, but once that is cleared up, we'll return to him. But let's go back to our Lagos Network Center. Shuaibu Idris, if you're still there, I imagine you're still there. Let's also get into what we know very well about the attitude of Nigerian businessmen and Nigerian investors. It almost turns out, and also with the lenders, those who are in the financial services sector, it looks much easier for them to advance credit for you to import than for them to advance credit for you to invest, where the payback time, of course, is much longer. You say you want to create jobs, and then suddenly people are then able to import the same items that you ordinarily could produce. There are a number of factories that have opened up producing toothpicks in this country. Some factories, of course, are already into palm oil processing and so on and so forth, steel, cement, and all that. So how do we put all of this in the same box and have a better understanding of the items?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. There are two issues here that we need to grapple with. Number one, the bankers, and it happens to be my constituency, and I'm in no way trying to defend my constituency. The bankers lend money arising from the monies that were deposited by customers. In this economy, as at today, you know, we are experiencing negative interest rates because the interest rates paid for depositors, for deposit received from customers is well below inflation rate. So technically, if you are keeping money in a bank, you are losing money. And most of the time, you get deposit for 90 days, 180 days. So you seldom get deposit for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So the banks are not able to, to collect money from depositors short time and then lend long time. Therefore, they prefer to lend, importation or rather trading, that transaction can be unwinded or completed within a very short period of time. Fast forward, we've had a Central Bank of Nigeria under Emefiele that did all sort of interventions, agricultural, anchor borrower scheme, textile intervention, aviation intervention, and most of those borrowings were 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. In this forum, in this platform, we did agree and we did discuss here that it was wrong for Central Bank to get involved directly in lending because it did not have the capacity to so do. It should have extended such credit using the development banks that we have, Bank of Agriculture, Bank of Industry, Infrastructure Bank, name them. We have them that such lending could have been done. I believe if we really and sincerely want to develop this economy, policy makers, government officials, and the businessmen and women first need to be patriotic. Yes, businessmen and women are after making profits, but within the ambit of making profit, there is what we call moral capitalism. So you want to make money, but taking care of the environment, taking care of the populace that you want to sell the items to, and being a little nationalistic and patriotic so that we will have a brighter future and a better society to live. Without doing such, it is near impossible to have the kind of robust economy that we would love to have, the kind of small and medium-scale enterprises that will employ our teeming youths, the kind of manufacturing processes that will tap our God-given wealth, be it agriculture, be it solid minerals mining, be it even the sun or the rain falls that we have had as a blessing in this country. So these are areas that all of us as businessmen and women, all of us are stakeholders in a system called Nigeria. We need to put heads together. We need to put hands together so that we can grow a better system, a better economy, and have a nation that we can all be proud of.
Shabu Idris, thank you so much for that. Let's bring in Dr. Muda Yusuf if the Zoom is working, if it's stable. Dr. Oko has talked about bringing stakeholders to the table to discuss issues while consultations with stakeholders before policies are made. Now, the CBN for some time now has been losing the confidence of Nigerians. Most Nigerians don't even trust the CBN anymore. And the new CBN governor is coming out to say, we're going to work, we're going to bring the confidence back. How is that going to be possible? With policies coming out all the time. This policy has been there for 8 years. And most Nigerians do not even know the policy existed in the first place.
I believe that before this announcement was made, for instance, I believe that some consultation will have taken place, because there are some very obvious anomalies that we have been living with, over the last 8 years. And I think this is one of those anomalies. But having said that, let me also say that
Dr. Kenyuka, you can respond to that.
Yeah, for me, if CBN is going to win the confidence of Nigerians in terms of revitalizing the economy again, because CBN has a very important role and mandate towards holding and upholding the economy. What I would suggest, or recommend rather, strongly, is that the CBN governor, the new CBN governor, should call for a wider meeting, stakeholders meeting. First, look at proper coordination among public sector, i.e., the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. And don't forget, and let me say this before I move on, this Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment has been a bit dormant. Permit me to say it very strongly. And that ministry has to reinvent herself. Because you have three portfolio, very critical for the economy, upheld. And of course, if that ministry was ebullient and very strong, many of the things that are happening within the CBN and other sectors today would have been centered there.
I think, I'm sorry to interrupt you so that we can streamline this. Our focus for today's conversation is on the lifting on Forex access
That's the same point
restrictions for the three items.
That's the same.
But the central bank has also, under Yemi Cardoso, announced that it will relieve itself of interventions in development programs, such as we had with anchor borrowers and so on and so forth. So I think that we should get that clear. That it says, look, we are not going to, such as let the central bank into retail banking, which it didn't and still doesn't have the capacity to fully execute. But in terms of impact of say allowing these items to come back, we're talking about, there's something that I raised, and Shuaibu Idris answered that question in part. Namely, when a policy is enunciated, what should be the responsibility of other players in the ecosystem? For instance, we say we're going to create jobs. Smallholder farmers get into the cultivation of small palm plantations, to be suppliers to the bigger oil mills and so on and so forth. And then all of a sudden, there is a rollback. You want to create jobs. You talked about backward integration earlier. Some manufacturers may have invested in new production lines for the conversion of flat sheets into head pans and wheelbarrows and so on and so forth. And now you say it's a lot easier. So you are in the trade segment of this value chain. Nigerians prefer trade to production. You don't create jobs in exponential proportions in trade as you would in production and allied activities. So how can we have, as I said, better clarity amongst the policy makers in the system so that the tensions can be reduced?
You have brought in, you've brought yourself back into what I was explaining about the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. The balancing act there is at that particular point. Because you are holding the tentacle to industry and industrialization. And then industrial policy is within your confines, including its implementation. Number two, you are also holding, this ministry is holding the trade, which today we have in Nigeria, we think is only imports, that is trade. No. There's also export side of trade. So the balancing act is within. And also the third leg, the tripod of it now, is that the investment angle is within it. So where do you invest on? You balance all of these policies. So that's what the role of the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment ought to have been. and then be given that particular linkage to the CBN for fiscal.
For monetary.
And monetary.
Yeah.
For monetary. And then the Minister of Finance for fiscal and all of that. That's the template, and that's how it should be. And all of these will now be rotating around our development plan. So that whatever our development plan says, you will anchor from there. We will now be moving in the right direction. Now, having said this decision will be better taken if the CBN, the Ministry of Finance, including Customs as agency, and then the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, all of them come together, including the some relevant agencies within the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, namely the NEPC, Bank of Industry, Bank of Agriculture, and all of that. NIPC. They should come together and they think of this. First, by reviewing the impact so far, the cost and the benefits of this policy for the 8 years. And then they decide, look, these are some of the mistakes that are made, these are the gains, these are the things that we can do. And then they will now come out and say, okay, outside we now include the industry, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, NASIMA, NANS, NASME, bring them together and say, this is what we have seen as a public sector. These are the problems we have seen. These are the gains we have seen. And these are the thinking that we want to adopt. The new line. We want to remove the restriction. Now, these people will now give you the practical side of it to say, look, these industries have been there. Now we have created social employment. These are the implications. If you remove this thing, these are the practical ones. Because he who wears the shoes knows where it pinches. And with this, you can now begin to modify. Perhaps not removing the restriction for the whole 43, but then you can now begin to, at installments, gradual process of withdrawal, agree on where a template is fixed that nobody is wounded at the end of the day. The economy is also wounded. That's the process.
Dr. Kenwuko, collaboration between agencies is key to ensuring the success of, it's very key. Let's bring in Shaibu Idris now. Or is Muda's Zoom ready? Is it working? I don't think so. Let's bring in Shaibu Idris now. You've listened to Kenwuko, collaboration between the CBN and relevant agencies with the Ministry of Trade and Investment is key to ensuring that some of these policies work. Let's have your take on that.
Before that, Jumai, let me try to explain one question or to answer a question. Your partner has asked, how does the central bank regain its, goodwill and trust because of the trust deficit that has existed? I think simply put, you need to be consistent in doing the right thing over and over and over and over again. Nigerians in general, most of us are doubting Thomases. We tend to doubt each and every action or inactions of those in authority. So Yemi Cardoso and his team has to look at the possibility of continuously being on the straight and narrow path, doing the right thing, and trying to, as much as possible they can do, to be apolitical. The central bank appears to have been bastardized. It has become almost an institution synonymous with all sorts of negative things. Yemi needs to continuously remain on the straight and narrow path, and damn the consequences. It's better for him to leave the job with his good name rather than to get his name soiled if the need arise, because politicians might want to tear him from every side of the divide. collaboration. I'm not sure if any one of us will disagree with the position of Dr. Ken. No one person is an island, and no one person has monopoly of knowledge. This country is built on a tripod of so many mechanisms, policies, institutions. There is always need for a mechanism to grind and to discuss, to interrogate, policies before they are eventually announced. Institutions such as the Institute of International Affairs, the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, the professional bodies, ICANN, ANAN, lawyers, Institute of Directors, there are quite a number that this country is blessed with enormous amount of brain power, not just populist, but brain power that we can almost always interrogate any item on planet Earth and come out with the best policies. Nigeria never...
Okay, shall we, Idris? We've run out of time as usual. The conversation gets very interesting towards the end. Shall we, Idris, Managing Director, Timeline Consult Limited. Thank you so much for your contribution and insight into this topic. Dr. Ken Ukoha, President, National Association of Nigerian Traders. As always, it's a pleasure to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria. Dr. Muda Yusuf, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprises and former Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We thank you so much for your input. We were supposed to join the Nigeria Railway Corporation MD for insight into the issue in Maiduguri on the railway coaches that was almost taken away, but now there's a controversy about it. But unfortunately, his Zoom network is not good. He was supposed to join us from China. Well, we'll get to talk about that, I think, in the subsequent edition of Good Morning Nigeria. Now, that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Join us again tomorrow, Tuesday, for another edition. I am Jumwai Yusuf.
Look after ourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.